Welcome to the WealthWise Show. This program is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute investment, legal, or tax advice. Benowitz Wealth Management is a registered investment advisor in the state of Florida. Registration does not imply any level of skill or training. Listeners should consult a qualified professional before making financial decisions. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Now let's get started with the WealthWise Show.
Welcome, guys, to another episode of the WealthWise Show. I'm your host, Derrick, and if you notice, I got a new setup. I'm wearing a lapel mic. I got a new camera, and we're in a different studio. And so, reason why you're seeing these episodes, is because the episodes I've done with my co-hosts, they're great, but there are some technical difficulties with the sound when I was editing in post. So I have to redo all these episodes for your pleasure and honestly for your knowledge. I want it to be great. I don't want to skip over these things because these things are important to a lot of people's lives. So to get into it, just want to clear up some things. Guys, keep in mind that this podcast, my opinions, my co-host opinions, any guests are that of our own. This podcast is meant for educational purposes only. It is not intended to be investment advice. So if you hear me say a company or a ticker or anything like that, I'm not recommending those things to you because I don't give advice on the internet. And so to get started, I wanted to talk about a few things in regards to really kind of, I want to say my core audience. Those who are in the FRS. A lot of my clients are Florida state employees. They work for the government in some way, either in education, in law enforcement, in rescue, or medical, or even, did I say education? I think I did. And then, of course, the municipalities. So they were, a lot of my clients are in that particular field. So it's important that, I, as an advisor, my job is to give advice. And so today I want to talk about the different things that the Florida offers to their retirement community, for their employees to retire. We're going to break it up into different segments or different parts, different episodes. This episode is going to be about the pension plan and then the deferred retirement option program or DROP. And so what is the FRS pension plan? And before I get started, if you hear anything in the background, I do apologize. I'm not in the soundproof room. I will be on Friday. But what is the FRS pension plan? And so it's pretty much it's a defined benefit program or retirement plan. And it's only eligible for those who worked for the FRS or, as an employee in Florida. And when I say employee in Florida, who actually work for the state of Florida. So you got your, like I said, your state and local officials, you have your schools, you have your law enforcement, things like that. And what it does is it provides a lifetime monthly retirement benefit when you retire. And that is subject to eligibility. We're going to get into that in a little minute. And it's administered by the Florida Department of Management Services, Division of Retirement. So that's really important. That's who manages the FRS pension. And there's different options you can choose for retirement. If you're an FRS, you got your pension plan, and you got your investment plan. I'm going to explain the investment plan in another video. But the key components that I think are very critical to understand is the different features of the pension plan. So when I said eligibility, so that's important to understand. So you got the vesting period, meaning if you are, part of the FRS, you can't just automatically get your pension after working 1 year. That's not how that works. So you have to invest a certain amount of years They call it years of service credit, but it's basically a certain amount of years. And typically those years are going to be 8. And so you have to at least be invested or working for a municipality, state or local education, law enforcement, whatnot, for at least 8 years. And that's to be eligible for the pension plan. And then, of course, depending on, for like memberships, they call it, classes, and the hiring date. If you retirement ages to them is 65, that's the normal retirement age. And then, or you had 33 years of service. So you have to be vested for 8 years to be eligible for the pension plan, but to actually get your pension essentially, you had to have worked 33 years or 65 or be 65, whichever comes first. And majority of people are going to have the 33 years, especially if you start, younger. Like if you got an early career in local governments. I'm going to say that instead of the municipalities, local governments. And then also you got, for education, a lot of people, choose to be educators out of high school. They may go to college for it, and then they start their career in education early. So usually 33 years are going to be, is what comes first. But also, like I was talking about with law enforcement though, there are special risk classes that can, I would say, retire a little bit earlier than those who are not of those risk classes, and that's a really good benefit for them. In particular, like law enforcement, rescue services, and things like that, for like firefighters, paramedics, things like that. And so, the biggest thing that I'm always asked is, well, Derrick, how much am I going to get? What's the number? And everyone's different. And so I can't sit here and tell you, well, this is how much you're going to get, because I don't know. I don't know your situation. I don't know you. So it's important to understand that there is a formula for this. And so I wrote it down here. So I'm going to try to thoroughly read it. And so you can compute your benefit by years of credible service, meaning how many years you served that's been credible, not incredible, but credible, times the percentage accrual rate. So that's going to be based on your membership class, which I'll get into about percentages a little bit later. And then the final average for compensation. And they usually try to use the highest. And so let's say, for example, over the last, 5 years or something like that, or the last 8 years. And out of those 8 years, the compensation is going to be based on those highest numbers, the highest compensation. And so understanding that is going to be on you. You know your pay stubs. And of course, there's plenty of people who can help you out with this, but the main focus on this podcast for those who want to be a little more hands-on in their finances, so you can do the calculations yourself to make sure, hey, this is what, hey, I did the calculation, this is what I'm owed. But yes, and so it's going to be the 8 years. Then, of course, sometimes you have your additional compensation like annual leave and things like that. And so the accrual rate, where we're going to get into right now, which is the percentage value. So for regular non-special class, it's about 1.6% a year of service. So for every year of service, you get 1.6% a year. And that's going to be for your tier 1 and tier 2 at full service. Now, special risk classes, they're usually going to be given a higher percentage value. And that's going to be around 3%, depending on the special risk. And so remember with the remember the formula that I gave is going to be the years of service, the credible service now, but the years of service, the percentage rate, and then the average final compensation. And so those three things is going to give you a, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess a basic estimate of your pension, how much you're going to get out of your pension. And so there's different options for the pension plan. That's also important. You have 4 different options. And it depends on if you have a beneficiary, if you have a joint annuitant, or guaranteed period. Because one of the statistics that a lot of people are not told is, and for you, this might not be a problem, but a lot of people do not use up their pension in their lifetime. Let's say you retire at 65. From 65 to, let's say the average age of 85, that's 20 years. So from 65 to 85, you have, in between there, 20 years, and medical costs go up, medical conditions go up, life happens, and unfortunately people do pass away before they reach their full pension benefits. So what does that mean for you? That means understanding that will help you to kind of understand if you have people dependent on you, if you have a joint annuitant, if there's other key elements in your life that you have to factor in for these options. And so, like I said, one of the important things to determine the best option is your lifestyle, or not your lifestyle, but your life in general. And so for just giving you some examples, joint option 3 provides a joint annuitant benefit for life. And so that means, you and another person, if you have a husband or you have a wife and they don't work for the FRS, they can still collect on your pension. And then you have option 4 that provides a reduced benefit, but upon your death or the joint annuitant's death, then it will, continue to keep going, but it's reduced. And so understanding these benefits can be a little confusing. That's why I highly recommend talking to someone. And of course, if you're watching this and you need some assistance, my firm, Benowitz Wealth Management, can definitely help you. But there's plenty other really good advisors like us out there who could benefit you. But understanding the ins and outs of the pension plan is important. And so then you have, moving on, is the cost of living adjustment, or COLA. Let me get a sip real quick. Oh, it's still recorded. And so the cost of living adjustment, the COLA, is for tier 1 members. And this is a cost of living adjustment of 3% per year on a portion of service. And that's actually let me read that. Yeah, my mistake. Derrick, edit from this to the time I drank. Right, you need a coffee time? So the cost of living adjustment, the COLA, that's going to get you about 3% a year to adjust for inflation, which is pretty good because if inflation right now, I think it's like 2.5, maybe it's 3%. I don't know. Last time I checked was who knows when. But if you're earning 3% and inflation is, not 3%, that's a pretty good increase. So that's the COLA, 3% a year, depending on, like I said, of inflation. Then you got early retirement. So for those of you who may want to retire early, the thing to understand about retiring early is if you don't have those years, you're not going to get a pension. You're not going to be eligible for your pension. But if you do retire before your retirement date and you are eligible, your benefits will be reduced essentially. So you got to, understand that that's going to be the case. You get reduced benefits and that's about 5% per year, by the way. I should mention that. But if you have a special risk, there's different rules and early eligibility for special risk individuals. And so that's pretty much the ins and outs of the FRS pension plan. It can be easily calculated, and it's something that, you guys should look into. And of course, the pension plan is not the only retirement plan that the FRS provides. It also provides the investment plan, which we're going to talk about later. But in the next episode, we're going to discuss, the deferred retirement option program and drop. So tune in to next week where we discuss that, and I'm going to teach you how to calculate those benefits and see where you're going to be at if you do choose to go that route of going to the pension plan. So with that, guys, thank you for listening. I do apologize for any noise you may have heard, but don't worry, I'm going to fix it in post. If you didn't hear nothing, I did a good job. And be sure to tune in to next week's episode, and then, going from there. So until next time, guys, stay WealthWise.